There are rare moments in life when you meet someone, and it feels as if the universe has been orchestrating that encounter for a very long time. With just one glance, it feels like you are staring into a mirror that reflects a part of your soul. With just one conversation, you hear words your heart had been longing for long before language even existed. It all feels so powerful, so undeniable, that you believe this must be destiny. But then comes the truth you cannot escape. You cannot be with them. Distance, time, circumstance, or simply the reality that they are not meant to belong to you. And it is here that the deepest cut begins. Carl Jung believed encounters like these are never random. The universe does not send you a kindred soul only to take them away, but to do something else entirely. To awaken you. The one you cannot have is the mirror of the parts you abandoned, the potentials you never lived, the wounds you never healed. They are not sent to be your other half, but to be a message. And perhaps, what is more frightening than not being able to have them, is missing the chance to see yourself through their arrival. If you stay until the end, you will understand why the universe sends the people you cannot be with, and why that very pain is the first doorway leading you back to your truest self. You will recognize this in the most familiar moments. In the morning, the first person you think of is not yourself, but them. When you see something beautiful, your instinct is to share it with them. Then you remember you cannot. And at night, lying in the dark, every rational reason you once told yourself dissolves, leaving only a hollow ache. Why them, if we were never meant to be together? The first symptom of this experience is the quiet obsession. You do not need to see them every day, yet they inhabit every corner of your mind. A casual remark from someone else, a fleeting melody, a street you once walked together. Each becomes a mirror reflecting the longing that refuses to fade. The second symptom is the inner conflict. You see them as both a gift and a punishment. You want to let go to find peace, yet you cannot, because the pain itself reminds you that you are still alive. And in that struggle, you begin to wonder, what is wrong with me, that the universe would arrange this? The third and most dangerous symptom is the loss of yourself. You start measuring every moment against the presence or absence of them. You forget who you were before you met. You live as if your heart belongs to someone else, and the only thing left to you is waiting. Jung called this a form of projection. You see in them qualities that in truth belong to you, the longing to live fully, the part you never dared to admit, the wounds you never named. They merely touch the right nerve, and you mistook them for the answer. But in reality, they are only the mirror reflecting what you have refused to face. And it is here that the pain becomes sacred, because it reveals not only that you loved someone you could not have, but also how long you have abandoned yourself. Carl Jung once said, "We do not see others as they are, we see them as we are." And this is the root of what you are experiencing right now. When you meet someone you feel drawn to with an intensity you cannot explain, what's really happening is not that you recognize them, but that you recognize a part of yourself being projected onto them. Jung called this mechanism projection. What you admire, desire, or fall deeply in love with in another person is often the very part of yourself you've abandoned. Maybe it is the freedom you've never allowed yourself to live. Maybe it is the tenderness you suppressed just to look strong. Maybe it is the passion you buried long ago out of fear. They are not bringing you something new. They are simply reflecting what has been asleep inside you all along. Jung emphasized, the meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. The person you cannot have often awakens in you the very emotions you've hidden, jealousy, longing, helplessness. You think they are the cause, but the truth is they only open the door for your shadow to emerge. And if you dare to look inside, you'll see old wounds, parts of yourself you've never healed. There is another phenomenon Jung described, Anima and Animus. He believed that within every man lives an inner feminine archetype, the Anima, and within every woman an inner masculine archetype, the Animus. When you meet someone who stirs such overwhelming recognition, it's often because they embody that opposite part within you. That is why the feeling doesn't resemble ordinary attraction. It feels like a deep call from the unconscious, demanding that you listen. Put it all together, and you'll see. The person you cannot be with is not a random accident. They are the mirror of your shadow. They are the embodiment of your anima or animus. They are the map leading you back to the parts of yourself you never dared to live. And the real question is not, why can't I have them? But rather, why did I need them to find myself? In the unconscious, nothing happens by accident. From the earliest years of life, you learn to hide parts of yourself to be loved, to survive. Every time you heard the words, "Don't cry," a fragment of emotion was pushed underground. Every time you were mocked for dreams that were too different, a piece of aspiration was locked away. Over time, your unconscious became a basement filled with abandoned fragments. That is the shadow. And then, one day, someone appears, as if holding the key to fling that door wide open. The first mechanism, the intensity of projection. You think you are seeing them, but in truth, you are seeing the buried part of yourself. That is why the feeling is so powerful, so consuming, that you mistake it for destiny. It is not that they are perfect, but that your unconscious is rejoicing. At last, I am being seen again. The second mechanism, the loop of obsession. You try to forget them, but the harder you suppress, the stronger the image returns. This is the nature of the unconscious. What is forced down will always find its way back up. They become an obsession not because they are more extraordinary than anyone else, but because they perfectly align with the part of you that was once hidden. The third mechanism, the reactivation of old wounds. They did not create the pain. You already carried it. Their rejection may awaken the childhood memory of being abandoned. Their distance may stir the fear of loneliness you never dared to touch. This is why the pain cuts so deep. It is not only about love, but the resonance of a lifetime of locked-away wounds. Eventually, the loop reaches a breaking point. You realize you are living around someone you cannot have, losing yourself in a hunger that will never be answered. And in that moment, the unconscious delivers a message. The problem was never them. The problem is that you abandoned yourself. This is the turning point of perception. You do not truly love them as an individual. You love the part of yourself they reflected to you. You are not in pain because you lost them, but because you lost the chance to see yourself. And once you understand this, the real journey begins, not chasing after a soul outside of you, but returning to the soul that has been waiting inside all along. And if you can reach this point, remember, most people stop at the pain, cursing fate, calling it cruel irony. But if you stay until the end, you will see what almost no one ever realizes, that the universe sends you the person you cannot have, not to leave you broken, but to make you, for the very first time, begin the journey of finding yourself. Imagine a blazing fire before you. Its light warms you, makes you feel alive, overflowing with energy. Every time you look at it, you feel reborn, as if parts of you that once went dark suddenly ignite again. But there is one truth: that fire is not yours to touch. Each step closer, you know it will burn you. And so you stand there, mesmerized, torn between wanting to stay and being forced to step back. The person you cannot have is that fire. They bring an eruption of life, making your heart tremble like never before. Yet at the same time, they remind you that there are boundaries you cannot cross. Their existence is both a miracle and a blade. You are grateful they appeared, yet wounded because they can never belong to you. In Jungian psychology, this fire is the symbol of projection and Anima/Animus. In them, you see the qualities your own soul longs to live: freedom, tenderness, intensity, wholeness. They do not truly give you these things. They only light the flame that has always been within you. And that is why their presence feels so powerful, so fated. The fire also carries a vital reminder. Its value does not lie in possession, but in awakening. You cannot carry it home, but you can keep the warmth it once gave you. You cannot hold it in your hands, but you can let it reveal the places inside you that have grown cold. You may think this love is a tragedy, but if you shift your perspective, you will see. The universe sent a fire so you would remember. You are still capable of burning. And from there, the real question is no longer, how do I have them? But, how do I ignite this fire within myself? If you are honest with yourself, you will see that you have lived many times in the orbit of a fire you could never touch. You open your phone just to wait for a message that never arrives. You pass by familiar places, silently hoping you might run into them by chance. You hear a song and feel your heart tighten because every lyric drags you back to something that could never be. All of these actions share one truth. You are living your life revolving around someone else. The cost of this is not small. Each day you let that external fire decide your emotions. You slowly surrender the right to be the author of your own life. You rise with their smile and collapse into the abyss with their turning away. You allow your life force to depend entirely on their presence or their absence. And if this continues, you will find yourself growing more and more estranged from who you really are, because every definition of I becomes inseparably tied to them. Jung called this state self-alienation, the estrangement from the self. You forget who you were before you met them. You no longer hear the voice of your own soul, because the echo of longing has drowned out everything else. And at that moment, the pain is no longer a reminder. It becomes a chain. Ask yourself, how many of your own dreams have you abandoned just to keep dreaming of them? How many opportunities have you let slip away because you believed your happiness depended on their existence? And if you continue down this path, can you be certain that one day, when you look into the mirror, you will still recognize the face staring back at you? Carl Jung once emphasized, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And the experience of loving someone you cannot have is precisely such a confrontation. It does not come to punish you, but to redefine the language you use to tell the story of who you are. In the old story, you called it tragedy. You told yourself you were unlucky, that you met the wrong person at the wrong time. But if you reframe it, you will see another truth. This person was never a mistake. They were an initiation. They did not come to complete you, but to reveal how many parts of yourself you had abandoned. Jung explained this through archetypes, the primordial patterns in the collective unconscious. He wrote, "The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution. When you meet someone you cannot have, what rises within you is not only a personal emotion, but the echo of ancient patterns. The hero within you is awakened, forcing you to leave the comfort zone and face the greatest trial, your own inner world. But walking beside the hero is always the shadow. And within this pain, the shadow emerges with everything you once rejected: jealousy, helplessness, fear. You can see this as an enemy or as the invitation to grow. Ultimately, it is Anima and Animus that unlock the door. The other person may embody the opposite polarity you never allowed yourself to live. Jung once insisted, the anima is the archetype of life itself. When you are drawn to them, you are not really being pulled by who they are, but by the awakening of that polarity within you. And this is why the attraction feels beyond logic. It is a call from the unconscious, demanding that you listen. If you cling to the old language, you will only see yourself as the victim of a failed love. But if you adopt the new language, you will see that you have been handed a chance for rebirth. They are not your missing half. They are the mirror of the wholeness you have never dared to step into. The pain of not having them is the test. Will you let yourself shatter in obsession, or will you grow by facing the darkness? To reframe means to rewrite the inner narrative. Instead of saying, I was abandoned, you can say, I was reminded there is a part of me I have never lived. Instead of, I am not enough, you can admit, I have forgotten my inherent worth. And from there, you begin to write a different story. The story of a soul brave enough to learn from pain, to become whole. The truth is, you cannot change whether someone stays or leaves, but you can change how you allow that experience to shape your life. The path of practice does not begin with trying to forget, but with learning to look deeper into yourself. Step 1. Write down what you saw in them that made you long for them so intensely. Was it freedom, passion, tenderness, or a light you never allowed yourself to live? That list becomes the map guiding you back to yourself. Step 2. Dare to name the pain instead of avoiding it. When you miss them, admit, I am longing for a part of myself. Each time you say this, you are pulling the projection back, no longer letting it drift beyond your reach. Step 3. Create space for the forgotten part to live again. If you saw creativity in them, start writing, painting, or making music. If you saw courage in them, try something you once feared. In doing so, the flame you thought only they carried slowly begins to ignite within you. And finally, learn to give thanks instead of blame. They did not come to complete you. They came to show you that you have been whole all along. Recognizing this is the moment you step from pain into freedom. If you continue to live orbiting around someone you cannot have, the price is not only longing, it is the slow erosion of your soul. You will find yourself trapped in a loop. The more you repress, the more obsessive it becomes. The more you try to forget, the clearer their image returns. And within that spiral, you gradually lose the ability to be present. You still go to work, still smile, still talk, but deep inside, your inner life is locked to an impossible dream. This is the greatest danger, to live an entire lifetime as a person waiting, but never as yourself. On the other hand, if you dare to face the message the universe is sending, what opens is not loss, but individuation, the journey Jung called becoming whole. He wrote, the self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. When you understand that the other person was only a mirror, you reclaim the power you once abandoned. Instead of chasing outward, you begin to turn inward. Instead of letting them decide your worth, you learn to define it from the self itself. And here, one illusion dissolves. The illusion of self, the belief that the ego you've been protecting is fixed and permanent. Jung once warned, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." This does not speak only of parents, but of all of us. The greatest tragedy is the life never lived. For the ego you defend as me is just a social mask, while the true self is vast, ever-changing, and constantly calling you forward. The final philosophy is not soft. It is a knife's edge. Either you continue living in the illusion that another person will complete you, or you shatter that illusion and step into the infinite process of the self. If you refuse, you will remain a shadow in someone else's story. But if you dare, you will, for the first time, enter the story of your own. One day, you will realize that the person you could never have was never destiny, but a mirror. They came to reflect the parts you denied, to awaken the potentials that lay dormant, to stir the wounds that needed to be healed. The true gift was never them, but the opportunity to finally see yourself. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And in this moment, the choice rests in your hands. To keep holding on to the illusion of an unfinished love, or to set it down and step into the self, the vast being that has been waiting for you all along. The final question, one you cannot avoid. Will you continue to live as a half-written role in someone else's story? Or will you begin the journey of becoming yourself, an infinite self? Hold a few seconds of silence after this video ends and listen for the answer rising from within. And if this journey speaks to you, stay, because ahead, there are still many doors waiting for you to open with your own hands.